Now, they are the oldest trains on the Tube network, having been introduced in 1972. And according to the Mayor, we could be travelling on them for another 20 years. Sadiq Khan says the financial crisis at Transport for London could force a managed decline of services if ministers fail to approve a long-term finance package next month. Our political correspondent, Simon Harris, has the latest.
Laura loves working on old tube trains, which is just as well. She's part of a team responsible for keeping London's oldest underground trains in working order.
As an apprentice, I worked on the majority of all the lines across London Underground, and this by far is my favourite because it's just old and it's nuts and bolts and it's dirty and it's not a lot to do with computers and everything, but I absolutely love it.
The Bakerloo Line trains are relics from a bygone age. They first carried passengers on the Northern Line in 1972 and should have been retired a decade ago. Patching them up gets harder and harder.
We start to see age-related defects creep in, so we start to see corrosion settle in on the car bodies, we start to see cracks, and all those defects need quite heavy intervention, welding for example, which takes a train out of service for a considerable amount of time.
Can you keep them safe?
Absolutely.
We were given access to the Bakerloo Line depot at Stonebridge Park in North London after the Mayor revealed a dramatic plan to put London's transport system into what's called managed decline. It means these trains would be 70 years old before there was money to buy new ones. It's the latest roll of the dice by City Hall in an attempt to persuade the government to give TfL long-term funding. Sadiq Khan's decision to publish a list of cutbacks seems to have annoyed the government. The Transport Secretary, Grant Shapps, accused the Mayor of public lobbying, an indication that ministers would prefer the negotiations over funding to be conducted behind closed doors. A Department for Transport spokesperson said the empty threats of managed decline are needless sabre-rattling. We have repeatedly shown our commitment to positive discussions and look forward to working closely with the Mayor to secure a fair deal which balances the needs of London and the interests of UK taxpayers. But the Mayor told me talks to agree a deal hadn't started and time is running out.
Up until today, the DfT haven't begun negotiations with TfL. We've had a team.
You saying they're not talking to you at all?
They're not talking. We've had a team ready to negotiate. No details about what the government deal is going to be.
The Transport Secretary and the department have made it clear they want these negotiations conducted behind closed doors. Aren't you in danger of antagonising them?
There are no negotiations.
The government gave TfL £4 billion in emergency bailouts after its income from fares was wiped out by COVID. Cash from the most recent grant runs out on December the 11th.
And Simon, another setback for the Mayor today, this time with his move from City Hall.
Yes, Lucrezia, the Mayor, the London Assembly and their staff, collectively known as the Greater London Authority, are due to leave City Hall on Friday as part of a plan by Sadiq Khan to plug a hole in his budget. We were told the new City Hall, a former exhibition centre in Docklands called the Crystal, would open in time for Christmas. But as we reported earlier this year, not everyone is convinced. And now it's emerged there will be a delay. The new City Hall in Newham won't open until January. That means GLA staff will have to move into temporary offices at the headquarters of the London Fire Brigade. Now, City Hall Conservatives who oppose the move, they think the Crystal is ill-suited to be the headquarters of London government, said the delay came as absolutely no surprise. But when I asked Sadiq Khan whether he was embarrassed, he said no, because the move ultimately will save £61 million over 5 years.
All right, Simon at City Hall, thank you.
Next tonight, it looks like we're heading towards a tube strike tomorrow as hopes of a last-minute deal are fading tonight. We're being warned to expect severe disruption on 5 lines from tomorrow morning as workers walk out and row over compulsory night shifts. Transport for London say the strike is unnecessary and businesses warn it will hit their profits hard. Here's our political correspondent, Simon Harris.
Oxford Circus Underground Station, the gateway to the flagship stores of the West End. But tomorrow, on one of the key shopping days of the year, Black Friday, 2 out of 3 tube lines here could be at a standstill.
This couldn't come at a worse time for the West End. We're just starting to recover. Customers are coming back for Christmas shopping, but of course we need them back here, and this strike is going to be really disruptive, not just to customers coming back, but also the 150,000 staff that work in the West End.
The 24-hour strike begins in the early hours, running from 4:30 tomorrow morning until 4:30 a.m. on Saturday. The walkout will hit 5 lines: the Central, Jubilee, Northern, Piccadilly and Victoria.
It's good it's on a Friday because most people will be home on a Friday.
On Fridays and Mondays I've been working from home.
I don't need to go to work tomorrow, which is good.
The strike has been timed to coincide with the relaunch of the night tube, which shut down at the start of the COVID outbreak in 2020. London Underground is warning of severe disruption.
It's particularly disappointing to see busy shopping days targeted, the important resumption of night tube services. So for London's nighttime economy, we know people have been looking forward to that, as well as people trying to get to work.
The RMT is objecting to changes in the way drivers are rostered. Before COVID, the night tube had its own dedicated team of drivers who were happy to work overnight. But now London Underground wants all drivers on the 5 lines to share the night shifts. London Underground says it asked the union for talks today to try to resolve the dispute, but got no response. However, the RMT has a different version of events.
I wrote to them at 16:38 hours last night, got emails to prove this, offering very happily to come to meetings today. Instead, they've spent the day lying about us, talking rubbish, saying that we refuse to go to meetings when that's not true. They've wasted the day doing that.
From both sides tonight, there seemed little movement. The dispute apparently deadlocked. Working from home and shopping online might soften the impact, but last Friday the tube carried more than 2.5 million passengers, and tomorrow's strike is the first of 10 planned by the union. Simon Harris, ITV News.